In today's video, I'm going to have a play with two 10 stoppers, the two best 10 stoppers on the market available at this moment. The Lee 10 stop and the one by Nisi. Let's see how we get on outside. We're here at a ship. Where are we?
Saltaire, Hurst Mill.
Hurst Mill Weir in Saltaire. It's a wonderful location. My friend Craig just seems to find these locations close to home. And the main test today is going to be the Lee 10 stop versus the Nisi 10 stop. This is a debate that's been going on for a long time, and a lot of people can't seem to find which one might be the one for them. So we're going to take one sample shot. We're not going to mess around for too long. We're going to keep it nice and simple. I'm not really going to talk too much about the holder and the CPL and the fitment of everything, because the Lee one does fit into the Nisi holder. I don't know if it works the other way around, but we can always try. So the purpose of this exercise is to give you raw files which you can download, play about with the images and see the color shift if there is any for yourself. Because we're not getting a lot of cloud movement at this moment, we're going to be shooting the actual weir just in the background over here. As the water's coming over, and I'm using the 70-200 on about 120, maybe give or take 20, 30 along those lines, and we've just got a nice close crop deliberately. And the test is a 30-second shot with a 10 stop, and my aperture is on it's on f4 and ISO's at 100. Let's have a look at the images that we just did. I'm going to open up Adobe Bridge, as this is my preferred program for organizing files and editing them lightly in. So the first one that we went to Hurst Mill in Saltaire, and we did these two shots with Nisi and the Lee filter. Now the settings for these filter are as follows. Both images were shot on f4.5, 30 seconds and an ISO of 100. Now one important thing to remember, as this will have a massive impact on the final image, is the white balance was set on auto for both of them. Reason being is I wanted to see how the camera would have a look, evaluate and judge the kind of environment it's in and what kind of color it would set the actual image in. Now because it's a 30-second exposure, we don't see massive differences, just some which are visible, which are obviously visible to the eye. If we go into a little more detail, we'll have a closer look at what the filters and how they actually performed. Now we can see that the images are ever so slightly underexposed. I say ever so slightly, it's about a stop, I believe. Yeah, if I go, yeah, it's about a stop. Probably a bit more depending on your screen preference. I mean, for me, Yes, about stop I'd say, give or take. Now that isn't how I would edit the image. I would make further changes with my highlights, clarity, shadows, etc, etc. But for the sake of this, we're not going to do it now. Now for some people this is acceptable. For me it's very acceptable. I'd happily use something like this in this setting. I've not had to change anything. That's how it's come out. But for those who want to be more precise, we can actually make this a bit more cooler. It is a little bit warm, but it was actually like this on the day. So if we were to make it a little bit more cooler, we just have to shift about here, I'd say, and the water is a bit more white. So we've gone from 6300 and we've only shifted to 57. So we've not gone massively different in terms of moving the temperature. And I don't really even have to touch the tint on that one. If we have a look at the Nisi, the Lee one, sorry. So this is the Lee one. Let's bring back the exposure to, I believe it was 115. So 115 there, just about right. It is a bit blue, and that does need a bit of warming. For me, that's not going to work. So I will have to, in the first instance, warm it up a bit. So I'm going to go about here. But there still seems a bit more tweaking I'm going to have to do. Yeah, about that, I'd say, give or take. This one again, it just seems a bit warmer looking at the cooler one. So I'm going to settle for that one there. So very similar, not massively different. We've just got more darker tones here in the shadows in the Lee filter, and in the Nisi one they're just a little bit more neutral. That's the only difference. So there's no winner as such. I mean, this is not a challenge to see which is better or which isn't. It's all down to preference on what the filters can do. Now, given it on a 30-second exposure, we're not going to see or expected to see masses of differences. But what happens if we are shooting for a little bit longer? Now, when you are using a 10 stop, you usually are, mainly you're going to be doing things 30 seconds and above. Now, I've got a few images here to show you for reference. This first image we can see, I'll open them all up actually. So back to camera raw again. Now this first image, this is shot with no filter, and the settings on this were f8, 60th of a second, ISO 100, and it only had a Nisi CPL dialed into the approximate maximum value. You can see there's no reflection in the water here, and just nice crisp water. The white balance was purposely set at daylight, so we were on 6500 on here. So then we're a lot more controlled and a lot more fair on both of the filters. So again, it's slightly underexposed. I'm going to bring that in a tiny about here, I'd say, give or take. So what, just not even half a stop. Let's take it to half a stop just for the sake of it. Probably a bit better. I mean, if I bring the highlights down a little bit and I can just fix it a little bit there. Again, just for the sake of this, I'm doing that. It's straightening, doesn't it? Okay, so that's with no filter. Now when I started the initial test, the light was fading fast, so the first shot I took was a 4-minute exposure with the Nisi filter, and this is it. Now this is a 4-minute exposure, and it's come down to 5300, so it's cooled it down a little bit, and it's set at 55. If we bring the exposure back up a little bit, which is, yeah, just over half a stop, it's about right. I mean, I would probably warm it a bit. Yes, where yeah, about here, I'd say, give or take. It's actually okay where it is. It's not even massive. It's what, 53 to 52, nothing. That's on that. This shot here is 4 minutes, 270 seconds. Now when it came to doing the Lee filter, when I took my base exposure reading, the light had dropped quite a lot on the settings. The reading on the Lee app had come down to 8 minutes. So this one was set to 8 minutes. So we've got F8 again, 510 seconds. I'm going to bring the exposure up a little bit. So let's see where about we are with that. Again, about half a stop. Let's take it to a stop. And there we are, about a stop. We'll bring the highlights down a tiny bit, and we're about there. But that by no means is close to the finished image that we want, unless you really prefer a scene like this. There's nothing wrong with shooting something like this if you're doing a zombie film or a zombie set or something dead, dull, dark and cold. it looks fine because the greens are still nice and green. Ignore these just come and go in the image. They won't actually be represented in the final image. Some heat spots over here on the sensor. So just to fix this, what does Camera Raw actually think we have to do? Oh, okay, that's done a fantastic job itself to 7500. So again, it's come from 53 and the tint is on +2 in magenta. If you do it to auto, and I think that is quite accurate, we've jumped up the magenta to +30 and we've gone to 7500 on the white balance, and that is actually quite nice. That is a good starting point for me. I would be happily use that image. Now here is the actual comparison. So this one is straight out the camera, nothing done, just as shot and as it is. Yes, it will bring back the exposure again. Actually, let's copy the settings from this image to this image, but not the white balance. So we've got the right exposure. There we are. So nothing done, but just the exposure and the highlights have been brought on down. So if we look at this image with a 10 stop for 8 minutes and no filter for 0.60th of a second, the 10 stop actually looks a bit better because of the exposure. Let's take that up a bit. With absolutely no tint, no color, no nothing. Probably a little bit green. Yeah, a little bit green. But that's only because I'm comparing it to the other image. There we are. So 10 stop Lee. Okay. 10 stop Nisi. You decide. Now the other thing is there's a very heavy vignetting going on the side. I'm not quite sure why that vignetting has come down. There's none on the Nisi filter, only on the Lee. But again, it's a few more clicks where we have to go in, choose my profile. It's a Canon. They don't have one for tilt and shift, but the closest I'll probably find is what are we on, 3.5. Let's have a look. I'm just going to go with that one. Okay, a bit better. So now I'm going to take the vignetting out. There we are, probably better. So if I do a quick before and an after, before and after. Now what you can still see is these areas here just don't seem black. Now again, it's all fixable, it's more work. A bit more solid, there we are. But that's the Nisi, almost straight out the camera. Straight out the camera with minor settings done to it. No need to do anything else. So we're looking at this area here. If I zoom into here and show you this area here, I'm also going to zoom in a little bit on this one so you can see the difference. Looking at the detail here, how it's a lot more crisper, a lot more sharper, and this was the last exposure, so my sensor should have been a lot more warmer. This is also because it's shooting through the resin filter and you can't really see as well as it would seen through a glass filter, which is the Nisi one. So it does give you these, I'm not quite sure what the name is for them. I'm going to make these two images available to download. There'll be a link in the description below. Have a look at them, play about with them. If you wish, you can re-upload them to my page. My page is Photography by Imran on Facebook. You can post them on your own blog. Tell me what you think and send me a link to it. It would be really helpful for myself as well. And I hope that's cleared a few questions I may have had. If you haven't, just fire me an email, leave a comment below, or even send something on Facebook, and I will try to get back to you as much as I can. But that was a true test of the Lee and the Nisi filter. In my opinion, the Nisi one performed well. There was less clicking. My workflow gets speeded up. I can do more and get straight into Photoshop than I would have to with here. Even the image here is still not finally done in Camera Raw. There's a few more tweaks to do to it, and I did earlier on play about with it, but I actually gave up because I had to get the video done. So if you like this video, guys, give me a subscribe and a thumbs up. Leave me a comment, tell me you love me if you do, and if you want to see more stuff, obviously subscribe where you'll get more updates coming in. Until next time, bye bye guys.